Be careful. You might learn something.
Let's go.
You are now tuned in to the Factual Opinions Podcast with your hosts. I am Pharaoh. Straight facts.
What's up, world? Happy to be back. Factual Opinions Podcast. This is season 5, episode 9. It's your host, I am Pharaoh, checking in with Will West, the best Nate.
You know it.
We may have the Brown Bruce Wayne Big John, and we may not. We also may have his god brother, Schroeder Jaguars head coach, varsity basketball, Will Johnson, checking in later. But for right now, you're rocking out with us. And I'm calling this episode House of Prime. The reason why I'm doing that, as many people could probably guess, is there's a lot of controversy over certain events that took place this past week and weekend during the NFL draft that affect one Coach Prime and his son, quarterback Shedeur Sanders. So I'm actually going to hop right into that right away. Much has been said, even by one of my favorite Bengals of all time, Boomer Esiason, the 1988 NFL MVP. And I categorically disagree with Boomer. And unfortunately, I'm just going to say it. You know, Boomer, this is why CBS let you go. And you starting to sound like a grumpy old man, and you're a little bit out of touch. And I hate to say that because I love me some Boomer Esiason. You know that, Nate. Until Joe Burrow, I always made the bold statement that Boomer was the greatest Bengals quarterback of all time. But along with him and a few other people, I want to get right into this. And excuse my language because there's no other way to put it. What happened to Shedeur Sanders on draft night, multiple draft nights, was almost short of criminal, and it was flat out bullshit. Anybody that tries to describe it as anything else is bullshitting. Um, there's a number of different ways to break it down. I've had questions from a lot of people, during the draft and even afterwards. Al, what happened? Why did he slide? A lot of different, theories have been thrown out there. It's not one thing. It's all encompassing. It's multiple things involved. So I'll just get right down to a few of the things that I believe led to Shedeur's slide and shouldn't happen. Number one, from a talent standpoint, there's no way that you can justify what happened to Shedeur Sanders. When you have individuals being drafted, such as Jalen Milroe, who can't even who can't even complete a 5-yard out at the NFL Combine.
I thought that I didn't even know that wasn't. I thought that was a myth, but they said it really happened. I was like, that is terrible.
I watched it, so I know it happened.
Terrible.
I watched it, so I know it happened. When you had other less accomplished quarterbacks, like a 26-year-old injury-prone quarterback from Louisville getting drafted ahead of him, and a quarterback that has brought two programs back from death's bed, basically, in Jackson State and Colorado.
There go Tony.
And accomplish everything that you would want to see from a quarterback coming in to the pros, and the ability to lead a team that may not have accomplished what you want, because we obviously know that's what happens when quarterbacks get drafted, high in the NFL draft. So I don't want to hear anything about what has he done. He inherited a 1-11 team at Colorado and led them to 4 wins on his first season, and defeated a team in TCU that had just appeared in the national championship, upped it to 9 wins his second year. You know what he did at Jackson State. And for everything that somebody wants to say Shedeur has inherited because of the last name on the back of his jersey, he's went out on the field and produced and shown that he's worth the price of coffee, unlike other individuals in other sports that I won't name, uh, as far as their son being thrusted into a spotlight or a position that they did not earn. It's one thing to say that you don't like this kid, and I'll get into that also, because every year there are kids that enter the draft that really do have character issues or, criminal concerns or, personality concerns that you should have red flags up with. But the stuff that I was hearing, and we talked about this leading up to the draft, and I was trying to tell people to stop the Shedeur Sanders hate, not that my platform was going to be the one to necessarily combat that, but I could tell what was happening because of what certain GMs and anonymous front office people were saying leading up to the draft. First of all, if you're going to say something, put your name on it. That's number one. Now we know because of the way the NFL works, there are certain things in the lead up to this draft that we're never going to know about and are never going to be released, leading up to this process. But outside of him walking into a pre-draft meeting and just saying, "Y'all can't F with me, I'm Shedeur Sanders," which I know he didn't walk in and say. No. All this other stuff is just exaggerated and for people that had agendas and just don't like the kid.
And even if that's I feel like it's pure. It was pure hate, and then it doesn't make any more worse because Deion Sanders is basically saying, "Hey, my son's going to somebody that's really going somewhere," even though he kind of ended up at a team that really ain't going nowhere. But he wants to prove a point. Let's just say that.
Okay. And that brings me to, another point, Nate, that I want to talk about. And I was trying to pull everything back up. Okay, I do have it. So, first of all, before I go away from the actual play side of it, Shedeur Sanders in 4 years of college completed over 70% of his passes. He threw for 14,347 yards and 134 touchdowns at two different programs. He's as accomplished a college football quarterback as you're going to find. Yeah. And a lot of analysts have talked about this. It becomes a subjective thing on whether certain scouts or people, a lot of which have never even played the game themselves, that they're evaluating on whether they just like a kid or not. And what you just mentioned, I want to get into also the whole specter of Deion Sanders. Now, as many people know that follow this platform, I am extremely biased when it comes to Deion Sanders, and I will admit that he was my childhood hero. And yes, Prime still to this day can do no wrong in my eyes. Now, with that said, I'm still going to stick to what I know and can be factually proven, even in relation to that. If you're a GM, if you're an owner, if you're a head coach, if you're a front office personnel in the NFL, and you're worried about Deion Sanders and his presence as to why you passed on Shedeur and let him slide to the 5th round, you're in the wrong business anyway. If your PR department is scared of another grown man, and let's be honest, there is a Deion presence. Okay, he's one of the greatest athletes, not just of our time, of all time, to ever walk the face of the earth. So yes, there is a presence, there is an aura around him, and certainly around his son being the son of Deion Sanders. But if that's what you're worried about as a professional sports organization, then you need to leave your job. If you can't control the narrative around your organization and you're scared of drafting Shedeur because of that, as if Deion's going to be knocking on your door or commenting every day on what goes on in your organization. Let me tell you something. LeVar Ball was a worse presence than Deion Sanders would be. Definitely. He still has a job, and he's not going to be interfering in the day-to-day affairs of Shedeur Sanders. And another thing is, that wasn't an issue when people like Archie Manning were, directly involved and directing the path of where his son was and wasn't going to go, and much more of a presence, whether he did it with bravado or not, even behind the scenes, controlling the strings as the puppet master. Now, I'll let you fill in the blank as to why it wasn't an issue when Archie and others did it. And then there's this whole narrative about Shedeur and his attitude, and he doesn't care what people think about him and so forth, and that certain people were putting out there. As if Joe Burrow does.
Right.
As if Lamar Jackson does.
Tom Brady.
Of all people. Tom Brady walked up to Robert Kraft after being drafted in the 6th round, 199th pick overall in the 2000 draft, and said, "You just made the best decision you ever made." Most people looked at him like he was crazy then. I'm sure Mr. Kraft even did.
Like, I know you can play football, but hey, buddy, you're pushing it a little bit.
But at the end of the day, it ended up being the truth, number one. But number two,
Coach Sellers, you're absolutely correct. He should not care one bit about
don't you
what people
want your
think
quarterback and the leader of your franchise who's going to face those headlines and negativity and everything else on a weekly basis to not care and to not internalize everything that comes his way?
That's a fact.
And shout out to Brother Darren, head coach of the mighty Schroeder Jaguars. You're right. At the end of the day, it's just people weaponizing and trying to use it as an excuse
of why he didn't get drafted.
To not draft this kid. And like I said, there were nothing by the metrics, by the talent, by the production, anything else to justify what was done, other than you trying to prove a point. And the other point that I wanted to get to is also, I don't think it was all NFL teams, because there were some teams that just weren't in the market for a quarterback, and didn't need to draft one. But the ones that did make that decision and met with Shedeur and found reasons to draft other guys, ahead of him, I do think there was a bit of fear of even Shedeur himself and the aura that he gives off, and being a confident young, brother, and coming from a family of means. So he wasn't coming clawing, scratching, needing that NFL check. So no, he wasn't throwing his feet down, throwing himself down in front of your feet.
Hold on, B. Sellers. Hold on. You see what he said?
He said, "Please put me up because people won't say what it really is." Well, Brother Darren, in fact, I'm gonna do you a solid, man. Hold on one second.
Yeah, we go get you added. So I'm gonna say this while I add this day. Have you realized that draft day, Shedeur was not really pressed? I think I was the only one. I think my homeboy said it too. He was like, "Bro, ain't pressed. He know he gonna be in the league. He just go show his He gonna show his true character, and he gonna show his balling abilities when he gets to a team."
And as LeBron said about Bronny, he don't necessarily need ball, even if it don't work out. And there's nothing wrong with that either, because there's this other thing about, this narrative that I've always thought was overblown, but it does affect our community sometimes when Black fathers aren't involved. But when they are involved, it suddenly becomes a problem.
It's scary.
Yeah,
it's a threat. But then they run around and tell about 110% our Black dads aren't involved. So when we involve, it's a problem. When we involve, y'all feel like we threatening y'all. Y'all feel like we are controlling our narrative.
Kenyon Martin and J.R. Smith talked about that, because they hate George Karl, who they played for.
For sure. They definitely
in Denver. And George Karl always had comments about, even back then, the type of player that he was coaching, and he called them AAU babies, and dad wasn't involved, so they had these attitudes or whatever. But then when J.R. Smith's dad starts showing up to practice and stuff, you want him to lead the facility.
Yeah,
can't have it both ways.
You don't want him. Oh no, you talking about these AAU babies, but my daddy here.
Yeah.
What's wrong now? You ain't talking too loud like you was when my dad wasn't here.
Brother Darren, I sent it to you on Messenger, the link.
You absolutely correct, Troy. It's been like this for a while. I actually talked to a former player of mine, his dad. He was like, "Hey, Will, you was the only one that used to listen to me." He said, "I just wanted the best for my son." I said, yeah, that's correct. I understand you wanted the best, but there's a way of doing it.
Brother Darren.
What's up? What's up, Coach?
Oh, fellas.
Yeah, so I brought you in because this is a very important conversation, and I don't want to let nobody off the hook either, because there's been a lot of narratives put out there around this situation, and I want people to know what really happened to speak their piece. So go ahead and jump in on the whole Shedeur situation.
I think we got to look at it. We got to look at it a few different ways because there's a few different things that's going on here, and you can't exclude it. Much as everybody wants to make of something else, you can't exclude color. Okay.
Ryan Clark said it too, Coach. Ryan Clark said it loud and clear.
His dad.
The color had something to do with it.
His color had a lot to do with it. His dad is who he is, and yeah, Stephen A. said it best. He said, "Now, Shedeur's and Deion's hands aren't totally clean of this."
Schroeder in the house.
That's my guy. But for them to do what they did, they wanted to shut the dad up. They wanted to get at her. That's them getting at Deion going through his kid, which is crazy. Then they want to stop him and make him into something that he's not. Just because the kid is on TV and he's on these videos and he's showing stuff like that, they won't let him be anything.
Yeah.
They want to corral this, you feel me? And that was the biggest part of it that I got out of it and then Cleveland goes and draft him, and everybody's talking about where's he gonna fit in that draft room, when to be honest with you, he's better.
He might be the one.
He is the one.
To be honest, he is the one.
Flacco still is Flacco. Flacco gonna always be Flacco. He's an older guy, but Flacco can put that ball where he put it at the ball. He run that offense. I have to give him that. Pickett, man.
Yeah, he might as well go on to the XFL. Go ahead and send him to the
XFL. Dylan Gabriel.
I think in a head-to-head competition. In a head-to-head competition, I still think Shedeur.
Yeah, I think that's his only competition.
Beats him.
I think
a fair competition.
Hold on, y'all. Hold on, real quick. Tony just said something that really struck me as well, because everybody keeps talking about Deion was just looking for a head coaching job. Deion knew damn well he wasn't going to get a head coaching job in the NFL. He knew that. His name was thrown around. Deion didn't shop himself. His name was thrown around. There's a difference.
Well, he didn't shop himself. I said Jerry Jones called Deion.
Yeah,
Deion didn't call.
He didn't promote saying he was going for an NFL job.
And he would have been hammered if he took that job anyway. So I am glad that he stayed in Colorado, honored that. But I want to say something that Brother Darren did just touch on also, because I said another element of what happened was to make an example of Shedeur as the NFL and other establishments fear what we now have in this NIL era, and players having more power and a presence on social media and ability to sometimes direct where they go and what opportunities they have, and they're coming in with chicken now, so to speak, as opposed to completely being, bare butt naked and having to comply with everything. And I don't have any money coming in or opportunities or my own narrative being shaped. And what better person or player or prospect to make an example of than the high profile Shedeur Sanders,
who already has 5 endorsements.
That's what I thought. His own media presence, his brother that runs the social media for the family and stuff. So I do think there were certain teams that were sending a message or threatened or just didn't want to deal with it, like they said, or I don't want the camera in the backup quarterback's locker room in front of his locker. Although I don't view Shedeur as a backup, at least not long term, if it's a fair, competition that's out there. So it was multi-layered. Like you said, you can't take the color aspect out of it. You can't take the Deion aspect out of it. You can't take the I want to make an example out of this new generation, the kid aspect out of it. So it wasn't just one thing; it was all encompassing.
But my thing is this, and I keep back to this, and my brother and some other people call me about it and everything. I said, if your name is not Manning or some of those other ones, it's gonna have an issue. When Peyton Manning, I'll never forget that draft. I sat and watched him do that, and I said to myself, I was like, how can you sit there and tell somebody, do not draft my kid? If you do draft me, he's not gonna play. When you got 20,000 other guys that are like wishing they get a just an invite to a camp, not let alone getting on a practice squad or something like that. You got guys out here that will steal, rob, and do all kind of craziness just to get on a roster. When your kid is getting ready to get picked, we know he's gonna be the number one pick, and you over there pulling the strings, and y'all thought that was okay because we didn't hear much out afterwards. But
we didn't.
Deion opened his mouth and said certain things about. He did the same thing, but they didn't like it that black face was trying to tell the NFL, that big shield, don't do this.
And
And
that's another
it
thing,
goes
because that
goes
that
back.
that shield that you said that took over Sundays from the church,
Yeah.
it is a powerful machine.
Mm-hmm.
And this ain't the first time we've seen it either, because, and I know you remember this, brother Darren, Jack Elway told the Baltimore Colts that his son, John Elway, wasn't playing for
Sure
them
did.
neither.
Sure did.
And
They
I'm not saying there wasn't pushback for that, because there was, but I know what you're getting at and saying it's not the same.
It is so.
That's a big difference too. But the thing, this is my thing. Like Coach Sellers just said, skin tone has a big thing to do that. Because when John Elway daddy did it, Dan Marino's daddy had something to do with it back in the day. You had Peyton Manning, had Archie involved with that, with Archie, with Peyton and Eli.
Yeah.
So, but when it becomes a black father saying, "Hey, my kid's going to an organization that's going to take care of
Coach
him,"
Will.
it was a
What up?
problem.
What up?
Well, and I do want to clarify something though, because Dan's dad didn't really have much to do with the scenario. All he said was, I would love for Dan to play in Pittsburgh, where Dan was
Mm-hmm.
born and raised and played his college ball. But Dan Marino's dad was just a truck driver, and he wasn't, no, I'm not saying that in a bad sense. I'm just saying he didn't have any of the pull that an Archie or
No. Well, all I'm saying is
a Deion
simply a dad
did.
saying something, having their insight on something, is a problem on our side.
I mean, Dan slid for some bull too, because they tried to paint a narrative about him that wasn't true either. Somebody put something out there that Dan Marino was a party boy or used drugs or whatever in college, none of which was true or ever, proven.
Them guys did college, bro. All of them had. You guys. I mean, I can go right to Cleveland, and that's my whole team. Browns, but they drafted two quarterbacks. They were done. Both of them were idiots in college.
Yeah.
And they still drafted them. One still in the NFL, and the other out here starting. But you more credence, you get more leverage, them guys, but you're gonna shun this kid who hasn't done anything out of the ordinary. He has no bad, he has good grades. Come on, man. He don't get
He's a
any.
good kid. He's a good kid. And because, like I said, he didn't throw himself down on the floor in front of the NFL brass and in their opinion, show enough, humility or whatever. Because, like I said, I would still love to see even the tapes of these, pre-draft meetings, which will never get, released, because I'm sure it's 100% exaggerated. And Shedeur knew enough, even for himself and his dad, not to go in there and totally be an ass. And he doesn't.
I don't like Will Johnson's face right now. So
nah, I'm getting ready.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me cook, because I'm setting this up. And this is another reason why I wanted Sir Johnson on this episode, because I'm sure he's going to have an interesting take on anything that involves Deion Sanders, which is why he was so happy and urgent and wanted to be on this episode. So I can't wait. But I'm just saying, like, Shedeur, like him or not, is a good kid. Ocho Cinco talked about that. He's like, man, there's people that come in every year, including myself, that have serious, background issues that you should look into. But you got a kid that doesn't have any, and you are trying your best to create a narrative that don't exist.
Mm-hmm.
So with that said, I want to welcome in my good friend, my fellow Schroeder alum, current Schroeder Jaguars varsity boys basketball coach, most importantly, North Carolina A&T alum. Throw that HBCU tag in there, Will Johnson, and get his perspective on everything that took place. What's up, brother?
Hey, Coach Teller, this is what we've been waiting on. This is what we've been waiting on. We've been waiting on because he is not a fan, not at all.
Well,
tripping.
The floor is yours, brother. I'm ready.
The floor is yours, bro.
Could it just have been that they didn't think he was that good?
I knew it was coming.
Oh my God!
That's my question. That's my question.
There were several other analysts and people that I lost respect for during this process that I used to like Trey Wingo, formerly of ESPN, that said the same thing, and he was emphatic about it. It doesn't have anything to do with anything other than what NFL teams think about his ability. Period. Quit trying to put all these other narratives and da-da-da-da. And I said again, it just doesn't hold water. You missed earlier when I brought up Shedeur stats and how he resurrected 2 Division I programs in Jackson State and Colorado and did what he did. And then you had people picked in front of him like Jalen Milroe, who can't even complete a 5-yard damn out at the combine. It just doesn't hold water.
Let's ask Coach Will this. Please educate us on why you would say he's not that good or wasn't. Wait a minute. And stats that they have on him other than what you're saying.
So let me start by saying, do I think that he should have been drafted in the 5th round? No. I think he should have been second, no later than the 3rd round draft pick. I'll give everybody that. I believe 4th and 5th round was crazy. But at the same time, I don't think a lot of people needed a quarterback. And I think the ones that needed a quarterback didn't feel like he was someone that they wanted to potentially build a franchise around. I believe his stats are great, but we have also had quarterbacks in college football who have been Heisman finalists that didn't get drafted. So stats are one thing.
Nothing.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay.
All right, now I got you.
Like I said, it's been Heisman finalists that didn't get drafted. So I mean, stats are one thing, but I also think
but we're not talking about Danny Werfel or Tim Tebow.
I'm just saying though.
Or Charlie Ward.
I'm just saying though, it's been Heisman fine because we brought up stats.
Eric Crouch, we're talking about a guy that, by most people's metrics, we were talking about leading into this just on ability only. We're talking about originally a top 10 pick. Could he slide to the end of the 1st round or middle like a Ben Roethlisberger or Aaron Rodgers did, just because of what you mentioned? Maybe some teams don't need it, but it was absolutely excessive that he ended up in the 5th round.
I agree.
That was premeditated by some teams that, for whatever reason, like I said, the Deion factor, their meetings with Shedeur, just decided to go along with this narrative or make up in their mind that it was true. It was not off ability. So I get what you're saying, but we're talking about a totally different tier quarterback here, where the stats prove it, the ability, the eye in the sky don't lie. It's sort of like, and I do have to bring this up. So our beloved Bengals, who make that 1st round pick of, Shamar Stewart, and the Bengals didn't do it, but there was enough nerve, enough, organizations to put up his stats, or measurables, next to that of Myles Garrett.
Facts.
And I'm like, you know what? I've seen a lot of players built like Tarzan play like Jane. I only care about measurables when it matches the production. And 1.5 sacks a year is not production enough for pick number 17 in a team that has to hit on all of their picks, but particularly first round, draft pick on defense. So there is a difference.
I'm gonna say this real quick. I feel like some of these picks was like the draft for the NBA this past year.
Yeah, it became that. Because see, the NBA drafts more so than any other professional sports league on potential.
Yep.
And I felt like that was a lot of what happened. I know that's what happened with the Bengals first round pick, and we all damn sure are hoping that potential turns into what they're looking at on the measures, because the stats don't add up. And that's what I'm saying about Shedeur, getting back to that conversation, is when you put his stats and his ability, and coach knows this, the eye in the sky don't lie. You can have whatever preference you want, whatever measurables. I want my quarterback to look like Carson Palmer or be like this. That's fine. Can they get the job done?
And
that's number one.
He's proved that he can put the numbers up. He was throwing that rock. With a bad line. And he got sacked the most last year and still put up numbers. Come on, man. You got to give him something.
No, I agree. I don't think him getting drafted in the 4th or 5th round was fair. I think all issues, all concerns, and everything played a part. I believe that it was his talent. I believe that it was his interviews. I believe it was Deion. I believe that all of those things all of those things contributed to him quote unquote falling in the draft. Like, to me it was only 2 teams that really needed a quarterback, and that was Pittsburgh. That was Pittsburgh, and that was also I won't even say the Giants, but it was definitely Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh did, for whatever reason.
Pittsburgh and Tennessee definitely.
And we got another.
I excluded Cam Ward because I excluded Tennessee because he was going to be the clear number 1 pick.
Yeah,
and they needed a quarterback.
We got another Schroeder alum and brother Tony, saying what he said. Case Keenum, Max Duggan, Gardner Minshew, Connor Cook all had great careers. They went late in draft. College numbers doesn't equal translation. No, it doesn't, but it's more to that. And you, of all people, being a Patriots fan, should understand that with Tom Brady being picked number 199 in the 2000 NFL draft. And again, the quarterbacks that you just named can't hold Shedeur's jockstrap, though. They shouldn't even be brought up in the same sentence. I get what you're trying to say.
But we don't know that.
Well, we're talking about coming in, because I make that argument with Tom Brady all the time. Him standing there with that T-shirt tucked into them tan shorts, at the combine, and the career that he had at Michigan, where they tried to get rid of him 3 different times there with Steve Drosbach, Brian Greasy, and what's my man that went to play baseball, Drew Henson. It wasn't a mistake where he got drafted. Now, did he prove everybody wrong and become a better player? Absolutely.
He maximized his opportunity.
But at the end of the day, coming into college, I can name so many other quarterbacks that all of us, if we were GM or evaluators, would have drafted above Tom Brady. And even from a talent point, I'm not talking about him being a winner and winning 7 Super Bowls. There's still guys that won less or no Super Bowls that I would have picked over Tom Brady still to this day. I won't go through that list because I've done it many times on this show. But, that's what I'm saying. Like, we're talking and making examples out of people that, numbers aside, don't even pass the eye test. Like I said, and I hate to crap on anybody that's going into the league and pursuing their dream, but I keep bringing people up like Jalen Milroe and even my boy, Will Howard, who played for my beloved Buckeyes, who had a horrible combine, performance. And I'm not saying that's indicative of how their careers are necessarily going to play out in the pros, but they were not. Put Shedeur Sanders on that Ohio State offense versus Will Howard. And see, Will shaking his head. Put Shedeur Sanders on that Ohio State team and tell me that Shedeur Sanders don't win the Heisman Trophy?
I don't know because he's been going up against real defenses.
Okay. Okay, Will.
That was a big
He
time
been going up against
right
Big
there.
Ten
That was a
defenses and
big
not Big
time
12.
rebuttal right there.
Okay, Will.
He been going up against Big Ten defenses and not Big 12.
But you
That's
gotta,
what I'm
but you
saying.
gotta
Like,
understand. But you
But
gotta
he also
understand
would have
though.
had Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate in the gang also.
okay, but he did have a Travis Hunter. But look, this ain't even about, to me, to be all the way honest though, I just think this was a situation where people overplayed their hand. I think Deion came into the mindset just thinking that I'm gonna be able to tell him to go wherever he want to go. This, that, another. No, you're not interviewing. This, that, another. All those other things instead of just
Letting the
doing
process
just the
be in the
necessary
process.
step. Yeah, let him enjoy the process. Like, what was wrong with that?
Brother Tony, you making my point for me. I mean, C.J. Stroud didn't win the Heisman. No, but he was a two-time Heisman finalist, and again, he passed the eye test, and he's done nothing to, detract from what people said or thought, or people like me knew that he would be. And I always
Well,
said that he have
CJ's playing better than what they said he was going to play when they
Yeah,
drafted.
for sure.
Some people, because I said he was going, and again, I'm not comparing him to this person, but I said he was going to have a Peyton Manning-esque career, meaning that he was going to have a better pro career than he did college coming out, because they both had the same narrative coming out of college, that they couldn't win the big game and they never beat their rival, but
Peyton Manning had that. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
yeah, so it was the same situation, but you could see all the intangibles and ability, especially throwing the football, was there. If you keep both of them clean, there was no argument about what
But
C.J. Stroud or Peyton Manning would do.
You also got to look at system, though. You also got to look at systems, though.
Mm-hmm.
You do. Because I will say this, that Cleveland offense that Stefanski runs is going to be good for him.
And that's
Why? Because they play a lot of play. They do a lot of play action. A lot of their stuff is zone and play action, off the play action throw. That's exactly where he needs to be. He's a pocket passer. He's not a Jalen Milroe. Jalen Milroe can take the ball and pull it down and run with it. He's a running back playing quarterback.
Yeah, he's a glorified running back, as one side would say.
So, and that's the other thing too, though. He went he went to Cleveland. Cleveland got a QB room full of mid. He should be able to beat those guys out if he's who
you missed that too. Yeah, we already said he is the one. He should be the one.
Who we think he is, he should be able to beat that QB room
in
full of
the fair
mid.
competition. I believe he will, and he has a Quashawn. And he has a Quashawn Judkins to turn around and hand the ball to, because again, the Browns and the Steelers don't mind drafting Buckeyes, unlike another franchise here in the tri-state area that seems to be opposed to doing so, and had 14 guys that they could have drafted. And can't believe that they didn't draft not one from a national championship team.
Yeah.
And they clearly had holes to do so, and allowed what to happen again? Jack Sawyer to go to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and is going to fit in just fine with that culture and that defense there as usual. But I don't want to get too far into that one yet.
He is right about that too.
Yeah.
Man, they're going to be fine. Ain't none of them Ohio State guys that went to those other AFC North teams went to the Super Bowl before the Bengals did, bro.
I'm just saying there were holes. I'm just saying there were holes in the secondary, because if you think you're going to line up with Dax Hill again and DJ Turner and guys that have proven that they can't get it done, and you can call me biased if you want.
Yeah, you being real biased.
I still will say
out there.
scheme.
Yeah, it went real left real quick.
It ain't the players, it's scheme. It
is scheme and skill.
And Dax Hill's a bust. Start playing good towards the end of the season.
Dax Hill's a bust. Okay. Period. Point blank. It's two different positions we done tried him at. Safety. Now he's a corner. Now he's a nickel corner. He's a bust. Troy, you can say very biased all you want. At the end of the day, the proof is in the pudding. What Michigan player the Bengals have drafted over the past 30 years, other than Leon Hall, has really given them any real production? You can call me biased all you want. I'll wait all day for you to give me a retort.
What about? I could be wrong. I don't know. But what about Ohio State? That the Bengals
I've said this before on here. regardless of whether you like Eli Apple or Isaiah Prince or even in the second tier Buckeyes that were on the roster, when they were there, you went to the Super Bowl and an AFC championship the following year.
We talking about guys that was drafted by the Bengals.
At the end of the day, the Bengals' excuse is going to be okay. Let me finish. The Bengals' excuse is going to be
Buckeyes.
The Bengals' excuse is going to be, well, we've drafted more Buckeyes. Hold on, Nate. The Bengals' excuse is going to be, because they said this before, even Mr. Brown himself, we've drafted more Buckeyes than any other school. We drafted 20 Buckeyes in our franchise's history. Now, again, do they go get the guy more often than not? No, they'll get a Boom Herron in the 6th round or a Reed Fragel or something like that. But what they have in their head is,
so you saying we're not getting top Buckeyes?
That's exactly what I'm saying. What they have in their head is, when we drafted Archie Griffin, it didn't work out right because he was ahead of his time as far as the type of running back that he was. Or when we drafted Big Daddy Dan Wilkinson, it didn't work well. When we drafted Billy Price, it didn't. So you're using individual scenarios to scare you away from drafting the top tier Buckeyes in the beginning of the draft that you should. Now, you go out and sign a Von Bell, in the middle of his career that will contribute, or try to squeeze a couple years out of AJ Hawk at the end or something like that. But yeah, that's absolutely what I'm saying is they don't go get guys. And even if it wasn't first round guys, you have problems in the secondary. There were safeties like Lathan Ransom out there. There were corners that could have filled out the end of your defensive backfield, and Denzel Burke and Jordan Hancock.
I thought he was going to get Burke.
There were decisions that made sense.
Yeah,
there were decisions that would have made sense if you did it and you pulled the trigger, and they didn't. And again, the teams I brought up, the Browns, the Steelers, the Patriots, there are other organizations like Arizona, that don't mind drafting Buckeyes, and they somehow work out for them, is all I'm saying. So you can call me biased if you want, but the proof is in the pudding.
Very biased.
Okay. Okay.
Because you just went down a whole list of Buckeyes.
But again, I'm not making this.
That didn't work out.
I named 3 players that the Buckeyes drafted that were first rounders by the Bengals that didn't work out. They've been in existence since 1969.
And they didn't draft 20 of them.
I said first rounders.
He said first round.
But what I'm saying is, they didn't put like this. They didn't see that the Buckeyes or the guys that you wanted them to draft was quality enough for them to draft.
And in true Bengals fashion, fans fashion, you got people kicking Sam Hubbard now because he retired, because he clearly wasn't the same player and injuries caught up. But everyone would be a damn lie to say that we didn't get decent production out of Sam Hubbard while he was here.
We did.
Sam Hubbard was good.
For sure.
Sam Hubbard was good.
Quality 3rd round pick.
He was a reason we went to the Super Bowl. We can't ignore that.
From a kid that was supposed to be playing lacrosse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was a lacrosse kid.
Nah, Sam Hubbard was solid. He was a solid Bengal. He was a solid pro.
All teams have certain schools, or like Coach said, a scheme that they feel fits best, with certain type of players, and they might be produced at a certain school that they look at. So I'm not saying anything's, necessarily wrong with that. But I just looked at it from the standpoint of there were too many talented, Buckeyes this year not to walk away one, particularly when the past few years you made sure that you became Ann Arbor Junior in your selections and certain schools that you went after. There was no excuse for you not to get one when you are an hour and a half up the road. Mike Tomlin personally makes that trip to the Ohio State Pro Day every year. He don't want to rely on his scouts or front office people. He's one of several coaches who goes there every year because it fits their scheme in Pittsburgh and the type of player that they're looking for. And he wants to be an evaluated person. And he's not the only one. So it wasn't surprising when Mike Vrabel drafted Travion Henderson in round 2.
Well, maybe the Big was looking at it like this: we gonna draft whoever wins the game. Whoever wins the game
ain't won no game that I saw.
Whoever wins the game between Ohio State and Michigan, that's who we gonna draft.
Shamar Stewart ain't won no game that I saw.
So once they win, then the Big will start picking up Buckeyes again.
So what was happening?
No, you didn't say that.
What was happening?
That's crazy.
What was happening from
crazy
2000? Okay, so what was happening from 2001 through 2019?
Say that. Thank you. Say that.
When that was the case.
I'm talking about this new Bengals.
Okay. So that's all I'm saying. There was no excuse for that, man. But at the end of the day, we all agree he should have been picked higher than the 5th round. We can speculate and talk about why and what led into it. And you weren't on here, Will, because I know how much you love Deion Sanders. I want to make sure.
No, I rock with Deion. Coach Prime is the problem.
I want to make sure that you aren't here when I said this. I said that any organization that was scared away from drafting Shedeur because of Deion, you're not a good organization to begin with. Your PR department is weak. Your GM, your head coach worrying about those type of narratives and stuff. That's what you get paid. And you worried about somebody from outside the building casting that much of a shadow when I don't think Deion would have been as much of a distraction as LeVar Ball was at any stage.
No, I don't think so. But I also think that Shedeur, him coming in or getting drafted by the Saints or getting drafted by Pittsburgh, I think would have forced him to have to go in there and start right away. And him going there and start right away might have been a detriment to his progression or whatever the case may be. So, like I said, I think he could have been a 2nd or 3rd round pick for sure. But I also think he's in a great situation. Like, he's in a situation where he has to compete. It's not going to be given to him. So you're going to really understand and see his character and all the negatives that people have said about him. Since he's been in Little League football, he's been coached by one person.
His dad.
Yeah, he's about to receive a different style of coaching. So we're gonna see the type of grit and the toughness and the grind that he got. And he's in a situation where he has to come in and compete. It ain't him just going against whoever, Derek Carr or anybody like that, or whoever the quarterbacks are, Mason Rudolph in there in Pittsburgh, where as soon as he throw an interception, they're gonna be saying get Shedeur in the game. He might not have been ready for that. He's in a situation where all camp he's gonna compete. And when he get his opportunity, he gonna be ready. And I think Cleveland's coach is an offensive coach. He's a quarterback coach.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it may be something that benefits him.
The quarterback's coach is Deion's friend. Bill Musgrave that's Deion's friend. They've been friends for years. So he's getting tutelage from a good quarterback coach, first of all. But it would be good for him to sit behind Flacco for a while. To be honest with you, I think Flacco is going to be fine. I think he's the one that's going to win the job.
I think he's going to be the starter for sure.
And when he was the starter before, he did pretty well until that playoff game against the Texans when we went down to Texas and they beat the brakes off of us. But other than that, he was the one that ran that team and got that team into the playoffs. He's a proven vet. He's a Super Bowl champ. So I ain't got no problem with it.
Breaking news. Indiana has just eliminated Milwaukee.
I knew that was happening. Yeah, I knew
if he can't be
Tyrese Hallenberg just hit a game-winning layup on Giannis.
If he can't be out Kenny Pickett and Gabriel, then we need to be quiet.
Yeah. I'm not worried about that, Will. I think that will take care of itself.
So you think that they're not going to? You think if he doesn't play, that it is orchestrated for him not to play?
I think of the individuals that we just named, and I have a little bit of respect for Flacco as a vet and what he's accomplished in this league, Super Bowl champ too. But I do believe he's played, the best football that he's going to play at this point. I'm not worried about Dillon Gabriel because, again, I just think at his core, Shedeur is a better, quarterback. Eliminate Deshaun Watson from the situation. I don't even know if he'll be on the roster.
Done. He won't play for Cleveland ever again.
And again, Kenny Pickett is not even worth bringing up in this conversation. So again, I think that all things will take care of themselves if it's a fair competition. Yes, I think you'll see Shedeur. But my thing is, and Tony brought up something. He said if Shedeur was all that, why wouldn't Tomlin take him? That's a black coach running team that needs.
Tomlin wasn't in that office. Al,
Tomlin
had that conversation.
Tomlin is.
He's at Big John house. I said Mike Tomlin. I did not see Mike Tomlin in there, bro.
Well, he was there, but the thing to remember about Pittsburgh is, does he have a voice? Yes.
No, it's seeming like now. No,
he has a voice. But what I'm trying to say, Mike Tomlin,
Mike Tomlin,
the Rooney
Most
family,
definitely.
the
Most
Rooney
definitely.
the Rooney family runs that organization. They
True that,
value
but they
Mike Tomlin's opinion. He's involved in the process,
yeah,
but the Rooney family does have the final decision,
that's
and
true.
I don't believe that that's indicative of what even they thought of Shedeur. Honestly, I laugh when they drafted Will Howard because, in their opinion, they still probably are searching and wanting. You're not gonna
Well,
find another one, but somebody
Will
that encompasses the traits of a Ben Roethlisberger, both in stature and play style, as well.
Will Howard's from Pennsylvania. That's
yeah, he
part of it
That's
is.
too.
true.
He's originally from Pennsylvania, so that's part of it.
You know,
Hometown
I
kid.
don't know why he didn't pull the trigger, but again, I made the comment that with their draft selections, one thing you'll always recognize about a Pittsburgh draft is it's a guy that fits their traits. I don't care whether it's
Yep, for sure.
offensively or defensively. It's a guy that accomplishes the traits, the toughness, the grit. They usually come from certain programs. Like I said, it's always that's a Pittsburgh Steeler guy when you see their pick. It jumps off the screen that way. Even their first
I
round
think
pick,
that was a bit. I think
the
that was a good
defensive
pick for them
tackle
at the
from Oregon.
quarterback position.
So I don't know why they didn't, but at the end of the day, there were a lot of teams that I said the same thing about the Las Vegas Raiders. I said that was a team that Geno Smith is not your long term answer there in Las Vegas at this point. Even if he comes in for a year or two and steadies the ship, and then I'm looking at Tom Brady being a minority owner of the Raiders and Shadeur's personal quarterback, coach for a certain period of
That
time
says
in
a
his
lot.
life. I'm like, we don't. But in fairness to Big Tom, since people want to call me biased, uh, I don't know that Big Tom didn't make that call. We don't know that.
You're right. The team that I thought that would be real good for him, I thought the Rams would have been good for him.
For who?
I thought the Rams would have been good for I thought the Rams would have been good for Shedeur.
He was gonna sit for about 2 years because
Yeah, he was
that
gonna
kid
sit
over
for
there.
2 years.
Yeah, that kid over there and for the Rams, he ain't going yet, bro.
Yeah,
He's Stafford too.
they still talking about
Stafford ain't
resigning
done
Stafford.
yet.
They
He
still talking
definitely
about
ain't done
resigning
yet.
him.
He
Yeah,
definitely ain't done yet.
because my partner Jeff had brought that up because I was getting ready to go in on Tom Brady, and we know why, mostly because of where he went to school at. But uh, he said, "Man, you don't know that Tom Brady didn't make that call because again, it's still up to the Raiders brass and the new Mr. Davis, Mark Davis, to pull that trigger." Now I tell you what, his dad would have drafted Shedeur, Al Davis. That'd have
Yeah,
been right up his
for
alley.
sure.
The whole
I
rebel
want that. I
thing,
want
Cause
that,
he
Coach.
was a Maverick
I
from the
want
beginning.
that.
yeah.
He always was a Maverick.
I want that
Always.
buzz he got going.
Yeah. Yeah, he knew how to grab a kid like that and put a fire up under him and make him what a
Oh
Raider is
yeah,
all about. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So
It
yeah,
would
I
have fit
like
the
that.
narrative.
Yeah.
So there was other stuff that happened that I wanted to speak on in the draft. Um, so, Coach, you are a Browns fan still, right?
Most definitely. Always
Okay.
will be. Always will
Um,
be. I'll
You
die.
sure?
I'll die one.
You sure, Coach? You sure? You sure you want to stay with him?
I'm positive.
All right. Okay. All
well,
right.
let me
Boy,
ask you
hey
something.
man, I'm born and raised there, bro. I don't turn. Whether they horrible, they could be,
Hey, I got a couple of
they
Cleveland
could be
friends.
shitty.
They Raven fans now, so I can't.
Well, I mean, let's go back to that now.
Okay. So, and another
I,
person that should be on the podcast soon, hopefully, brother Ruben Patterson is a diehard
He
Cleveland
is.
Browns
yeah, I'm born and
fan.
raised there, man. I'm from there. I grew up there.
Well,
That's everything to me.
Well, my only thing is, and I got family up there and grew up on St. Clair Avenue, my
Yeah,
aunts
yeah.
and a lot of other people. I'm concerned for Shadua for only one reason, not because of
Why?
talent, not because I don't think he can beat out the QB room.
Why?
There hasn't been a stable situation there since Bernie Kosar was the quarterback. To be honest, they gave up
Mhm.
on Baker a little bit too early, in my opinion. You can argue whether you were going to level out or not, with him. But what did you think about Cleveland's draft overall?
Overall draft,
Yeah.
I thought they could have did better than Mason Graham out in the first round. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
And that's not, and I'm not
I
going
agree.
against him because he's a Michigan guy. I'm not even bringing the Michigan thing into it because I ain't gonna lie to you. When Mason played Ohio State, he and that other big boy they had up there
Grant,
was
who
killing
I
them.
think is going to have a better pro career than
I do
Graham.
too.
Yeah. I thought they could have did a better job when it came there, or got some draft picks and got back into the end of the first round or something like that, instead of taking that early pick with that guy. I thought they should have accumulated more picks because we need some guys. That's what I think they should have did, but they didn't. And I'm not making the big money to make them decisions over there. So,
Coach, can I say this though?
Yeah.
Why not go get? Why do you think they traded and not went to get Abdul?
You know what? I think they still have some issues with Abdul Carter's shoulder, man. For him, you got to remember he messed that shoulder up during the season and came back. I want to say 2 weeks later, he came back when he couldn't even barely pick that arm up. I think there's some lingering problems with that shoulder, and I think they didn't want to deal with that. Plus, they end up getting another guy to play DN. That
they got the boy in the
Atlanta.
third. It was either the second or the third round. They got
they got a guy. No, they got a guy.
Oh, that was the later round. The later round guy.
There was a guy they got in free agency from Atlanta that plays DN. He's got a weird name. I have to pull it up.
So basically, you're okay with them passing on Travis Hunter?
That's what you was trying to get at. I figured that.
That's where we was going.
I think that a player like Travis Hunter, you need to have
a quarterback
and a different scheme. Cleveland's scheme is not for Travis Hunter. He is going to waste away in that scheme. Travis
is that
Hunter,
what happened
to me, I think Travis Hunter would thrive in a scheme that's more wide open, like LA, like the Rams.
That freelance safety mode. I mean, with that dominant one.
Nah, are you talking offensively? Because I'm still looking at Travis Hunter.
I was thinking defensively.
Defensively, I mean, he could fit in anybody's defense because the kid knows how to play cover one.
He's a ball hawk.
And if you put him in zone and you throw it anywhere in that damn zone where he's at, he's gonna get it. So he can play. I don't think he can play in anybody's, because mostly everybody's defense in the NFL. There's only so many coverages you can run, and there's only so many ways you can scheme it out. They talk about people doing different things, but there's only so many ways you can do it. And I think he's just he's a unicorn. That's real.
Yeah,
that's real. But they talking about he playing both sides of the ball. I'm thinking offensively, he wouldn't fit in Cleveland's offense. He just won't fit in it. I know you say, well, you need to change the offense for a player like that. Yeah, but is that real relative? Would you would really do that to your whole organization to change your offense for that guy? No.
See, and me and Big John have argued this even before Travis was entering the NFL draft. I still place more value on him as a defensive back and his ability to lock somebody up.
You think he's better at playing DB than receiver or slot?
I agree. Yeah. I agree.
The only reason I'm going to say yes is because I feel like they needed him offensively at Colorado, so that's what he was featured more as. But there's still more of a premium on a defensive back. They're always going to go higher because there's a shortage of them as opposed to wide receiver. There's a bunch of guys that can line up wide, look pretty and catch a football, but the guys that can shut them down, there's always a premium on them.
Well, this is the question you're going to have to ask, and we're going to see this early on. Can Travis Hunter come downhill and hit some of them running backs and get them guys off of him?
Oh,
he's not a real big guy.
That's a good one.
And number two, can Travis Hunter deal with the big receivers that they have in the NFL that can run and that are strong and that's going to try to hold him off? Can he do that?
Can
We're
he
gonna
deal with a
find out real
DK
quick, like you
Metcalf?
said.
We're gonna find out real quick. I think he has the makings to be that. I think he's going to have to put some weight on. I think he's going to have to get stronger, get some muscle more. I think he's just going to have to grow. He's going to have to he's going to have to be bigger. The
Yeah.
defensive backs now are not little slender guys no more.
Nope.
Not even hot sauce. Hot sauce ain't even slender like that no more. Hot sauce then got big. You know what I mean? You have to be in this NFL because those receivers are monsters, dude. Them
They
monsters,
are.
real. Them guys are. You look at them on TV like, dang, he ain't really that big. And you see him in person, you like, man, he big as hell. Jamar
Yeah.
Chase in person is
Jamar Chase is built
huge.
like a running back, man.
Yeah, he is built like a
Is
running back. I was just going to say that. He built like a running back.
He
So,
is
brother
huge.
Will, I want to bring you in, man, and talk about your beloved Bengals. What did you think overall of the draft?
I think they focused on positions of need, right? I think they felt like they needed to get younger and quicker at the linebacker position. I think they felt like they needed to get better on the end, defensive end, edge rusher. I wasn't a fan of the pick at all, but one thing about Bengals draft picks is I'm never usually a fan, and those guys are the ones who turn out to be the best. So hopefully, hopefully this repeats itself.
I'll admit the only two that I was wrong on, and these are very big ones, was Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase.
I was wrong on both of them.
I was wrong.
I don't know why
I
you would
th-
be wrong on them two guys.
hey,
Them two
listen, because
guys
I
were
told them,
studs.
I said they should have traded down off of Joe Burrow, got more picks, and then I said they should have drafted the offensive lineman that went to Detroit
Well,
over Jamar Chase.
you got to remember, Coach. Well, first of all, I want to throw it out there. I am the president of the Joe Burrow fan club, and everybody knows that now. But at the time, you know, I really didn't think the Red Rifle was the answer, but I didn't think he was the problem either. And as far
He
as
was serviceable. Serviceable.
my old school conventional football wisdom, and this is prior to the injury, I wanted Jamar Chase. I wanted them to build, on both sides of the offense because the offensive line was terrible at the time, and we saw that even at the beginning of Joe Burrow's, career. He overcame some of that. But my theory was, no matter who you put back there, if you don't have an offensive line to protect him, you're gonna get him
It
killed
don't
anyway,
matter.
which
Mhm.
almost happened, with his knee injury and everything, his rookie year anyway. And I was looking at Sunshine, Ronnie Bass. Lawrence or Justin Fields the next year that you could have drafted because I felt like either way they were going to have the type of record that they did Joe Burrow's, first year, which they did. So that was my thinking. The Jamar Chase thing, I'm going to blame LSU's marketing and scouting part because all the highlights I saw, and I tried to watch enough tape on it, they made him look like a damn possession wide receiver.
Yeah,
like I didn't see the explosiveness and the stuff that we were privy to when he got here. So I just didn't see it. And he set out that last year at LSU
he
due
set
to
out the COVID
COVID.
year.
And there was a whole bunch of debate between him and Penei Sewell, who's also turned into an All-Pro by the way up there in Detroit. And he set out too. So I was thinking, especially Joe Burrow coming off that devastating knee injury, I'm like, Penei Sewell, protect your investment. You had Joe Mixon at the time who was still, dogging and stuff. So that's why I was wrong on that. But I'm willing to admit, and of course, I mean, look, hindsight is 2020, but Detroit didn't make the wrong pick either. Penei Sewell is panned out, but in muscle. So that's why I was wrong on those two. And you got to remember, I saw Joe at Ohio State, and give or take, when he got there, he was supposed to be a clipboard holder. Now, kudos to Joe for believing more in himself and saying, "Hey, I got to get out of here. I'm not being given a fair,
Well, he got hurt. You
state."
got to remember he got hurt. He got hurt in the middle of
got
that too.
hurt.
That whole
Yeah.
Yeah,
thing.
no, he was slated to be the backup. But
Yeah,
when Dwayne Haskins got in there and broke the Big
it was
Ten
easy. It was done. It was
all-time
done. It was
season,
done.
leading record for passing yards and touchdowns, it was a wrap. And even he said it. He said, "I knew when he came in that Michigan game when JT Barrett got hurt and he led us to a victory. I'm like, I ain't starting over that.
Mm-mm.
You know, and he left. And then I looked at that first year at LSU, and I'm like, maybe I didn't look as deeply as I should have. That was the first time that Joe had played a lot of football since 2013 when he was in high school. So it was, they just went 6-6. They
And
weren't
he
that
had one of the best
impressive.
offensive lines in college football that year, too.
But that next year, I'm like, okay, yeah, we know he dog, Heisman Trophy, everything. But I'm like, I was a little leery. I'm like, is this one hit wonder? Is this Kelly Smith, type, deal? But Joe obviously proved everybody wrong, so there's no debating that.
Yeah, but I think that first round. I think the first round draft pick. I think he, based off his measurables and the things that everyone is saying about him, I feel like he can blossom and turn into something that's good. I know I looked at the production too, but then when you have somebody like Michael Parsons who said his whole Penn State career he only had 5 sacks, you look at it like, well, maybe sometimes stats are misleading, which they are. In our reality, stats are misleading. So, I'm gonna get a guy a chance. I'm glad they drafted majority defense because we knew that's where they were
We
bad
needed
at,
the most help.
but they got a hit. Like
But
they
something Mr.
got a
Lawrence
hit.
said though, do we have the history of developing guys after they get here? And I'm a
No,
little leery of pass rushers because I feel like, and Coach, I'd be glad to have your opinion on this too. I feel like getting to the quarterback is one of the most I'm trying to think of the word, but traits or characteristics that does translate the most through whatever level. You can tell whether a guy can get to the quarterback. I don't care whether it's pretty like Julius Peppers or Reggie White or it's ugly like Myles Garrett. You can tell whether a guy has that trait, and I don't know that that's something that you can necessarily teach. You can fine tune it, you know. But that was my whole issue with Miles Murphy a couple years ago, coming in watching tape on him. I'm like, he had one pass rush move that he used at Clemson. I'm like, that's not gonna get it done at the NFL level, and he didn't have a whole lot of bend to him coming around that edge either, which is another thing that more often than not you can't necessarily teach. So that's why I'm a little bit afraid of the pick. Yes, the measurables are there, but it's like, man, you can either get to the quarterback or you can't.
Yeah.
well, they said that he got to the quarterback, he just didn't close the deal. So
He said that. He said that yesterday on
yeah.
the podcast. He said that. He
He
said
said
he
I
didn't
got to the
tackle with him.
quarterback. I just
He
couldn't
said
get
he said I couldn't tackle. I ain't
What
tackle
Charles
with him.
Barkley say? The operation was a success, but the patient died.
Yeah. So
That's a perfect way of saying it. I ain't gonna.
so that's the main thing. So I think it'll be better, man. I hope it's better, man.
I
I hope
like the
it's better. I
second
hope
round
it's
pick though that you mentioned, Demetrius Knight, the linebacker from South Carolina.
Yeah, I like him.
Number
He
one, I
actually
fell in love with
he
his
a ball
story.
hawk. He's definitely a ball hawk.
He's a ball hawk, but I mean, yeah, you can see the film, but there's something else that I look at with guys. If you talk about evaluating and really looking at stuff that you should off the field and stuff, I look at this guy's story. He started off at Charlotte, and him and his wife would have to DoorDash sometimes after games just to be able to eat, buy baby formula for their daughter.
He got
Just
2 kids. He hungry, bro. He hungry. He gonna
just
be.
just
He gonna do
survive.
that man. He
Then he
gonna do
goes to
that.
South Carolina, like you said, and steps it up. He's a very humble kid. You can tell that he's gonna make the most of this opportunity.
Yeah.
Make
and
this
we
a
can get
clip,
rid of
bro.
Pratt.
Yeah, we can get rid of him. He can go now.
Y'all don't like Pratt no
Anybody
more
better
now.
than Pratt. I don't care what nobody say.
I realized this
that's how
past
Bengals
season.
fans are, Coach. Man, it's
Dang,
What?
really?
when
Time out.
they always kick him on the way out.
Time out. That's not me. Cause
When when he
I've been
intercepted that
anti-Pratt.
pass when I was down there at Paycor and watched it, he was a damn hero and playoff P and everything
Hey,
else they
listen.
wanted to call him.
Hey, listen.
Now
I've been
it's
against Pratt
all
since the Super Bowl run.
Yeah,
I
I
don't care
have
how
too.
many clutch interceptions and
Yeah,
turnovers he
I
get.
have too.
I've
Ever
been
since the
ready for
Super
him to
Bowl,
leave.
that was
You
something.
can
Hey,
go through
I
my
don't even
Facebook
agree with
history.
what.
oh, we got
Me
brother
and Will
Kurt in
got
the
the
house,
same
man.
name. I do not agree with him often, but when it came to Pratt, I was right with him. I said, "Nah, that was one good play."
First
Yeah,
of all, let Let me acknowledge Brother Kurt in the house. He said Daniel Hunter had 4 sacks his college career and has 100 as a pro. I agree. It's probably someone better to draft there, but I'll reserve judgment until I see him play with us. That's a fair point.
Absolutely.
Very fair.
Brother Kurt, I'm overdue for some of them shrimp and grits, though, by the way. So, yeah, I mean, all of these picks are a gamble, right? We don't know if they're going to pan out or not. I was just saying, with the position the Bengals are in, the money that they've allocated towards the offensive side of the ball, and the absolute need to hit even more so than normal right now to maximize the window that you have with the T. Higgins, the Joe Burrow, and the Jamar Chase. I'm just not taking a gamble on a developmental prospect that high with that first round pick. Is all I'm saying. Obviously,
so
we all hope. I like James Pierce from Tennessee.
He is a dog. He a dog too.
Because I looked at his tape. I looked at the quality of opposition that he played, in that overrated conference that I talk about a lot. But,
it's better than the Big 12. Go ahead.
Okay. I also looked at James Pierce.
Man, you is gone, man.
He is. No, but I'm saying, and I even pointed it out to Nate when we were out at Big John's house watching the draft. I said, look at even the short clips that you're seeing here and the array of pass rush moves that you see from this individual to know that he's not going to be limited when he comes to this next level and just getting to the ball. And of course, I posted, his 40, at the combine, running a 4.5 flat at, 6'5", almost 250 pounds. There's just certain stuff that you can't teach. So I was, for him, I know this is going to sound funny with everything that I said. If you were going to draft a player from that team up north, there was one that I would have been okay with this year, and he slid a little bit because of his injury that he had.
Are you talking about my son?
Yeah, who shares the same name as you.
Will Johnson.
I would have been okay with that.
They scared away from Will Johnson because of that knee injury.
That injury, yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah.
That's who I wanted.
And we don't know how bad that is. They obviously had the medical records and stuff to make, that assessment. But he was another one where it's like the eye in the sky don't lie. I'm like, now if you're going to draft one, Bengals.
Where did he end up? Where did he end
up?
Arizona was snatching all the corners. I don't know what that was about.
That's who I wanted.
Yeah, Arizona took two key picks from us.
Got Will Johnson and they got Burke.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but James Pierce would have. But honestly, and I said it last episode, my preferred pick got snatched up one pick ahead of them.
Yep.
And Walter Nolan. That's who I had settled on and said that I wanted, the defensive tackle from Ole Miss.
Wanted. I think
they did. They definitely wanted.
I know they would have drafted him if he was there.
They wanted Nolan.
But
Coach looked like he thinking on that one. I thought Walter Nolan, I mean, everybody talked about the two Michigan guys. I thought Walter Nolan was the best defensive tackle in the draft.
Yeah.
I like that other kid. I like the kid from Michigan better than I like him.
Which one, Grant or Graham?
Grant. Not Graham.
Yeah, I still think Grant is going to have a better pro career than Graham.
Yeah.
People were high on Graham, but I'm like, man, I can't say what I want to say on here, but I'm like, I don't know, man. He might end up being Mike Golick, man, for all we know.
That's bad. Golick.
So your Cavs gonna win the championship, Cole?
Hey man, we're gonna go out there and we're gonna keep playing, bro.
I'm glad you said that the correct way because you're running into Boston.
Oh, so you're a Boston fan?
Unfortunately,
Are you from Boston? Have you?
I am not, but no,
he has no connection to that franchise whatsoever.
I'm gonna tell you why. Okay. I'm a Boston fan.
Wow.
I was a big Reggie Lewis fan growing up.
Okay.
So that's why I'm really a true Boston fan.
Huh? Reggie Lewis is big for me too.
Yeah, God rest his soul. He was really heavy in the community. Yeah. I don't know if y'all seen the series But they gave the story on him about how he was real heavily.
Now, ain't nobody watching that Boston Celtics documentary, man.
You crazy.
Only good thing from Boston is New Edition. All right.
And that's how you go live. You can live like that, Alex.
Hold on. Is your Lakers done in 5?
Lakers in 5.
What Unc say? Lakers in 5.
Lakers in 5.
Of course, Unc got some other things to worry about right now.
Yeah, right now,
I'm just saying, are they done in 5?
Hey, man.
Ant-Man is getting rid of him.
Going crazy. He's crazy.
He's getting rid of them.
He said, I'm sending you and your son home.
Yep.
My New York Knicks are fine. How about that?
They say they fighting right now. The Knicks fighting right now.
They lose the next round.
I can't stand the Knicks, man.
Nah, you know what? I'm glad you brought it up because so
they play Cleveland next round.
Let me speak about my Lakers.
No, Cleveland got Indiana.
Oh yeah, the Cleveland got Indiana. You're right.
So I'll go ahead and speak on my Lakers. You know, what's funny, and I know I'm gonna get a lot of backlash for this, is somebody is starting to look their age to me.
For sure. It was only a time.
Not that he's the problem. I'm just saying I can see it if everybody else wants to ignore it.
No, he's not the problem.
He's playing both ends of the ball now. He ain't got time to rest. He's resting on offense now to play defense, which is backwards.
You about to make me do something I've never done in my life.
What's that?
And that's vouch for old boy that you saying is acting his age.
Go ahead and vouch for him. Coach Will.
That's on 77. He got to play some defense.
Yeah.
And if you take everybody away, what Minnesota is doing is saying, go ahead and get yours. We're going to single cover you. We ain't going to double you.
Nope.
You can't make nobody better when we ain't doubling you.
Yeah.
Go ahead, score. And you're going to get tired out. That's why fourth quarter, you only had 2 points.
Yeah.
Missed every key jump shot, all of those things. And you don't play defense.
While I totally agree, Coach Sellers was on here the last episode when that actually happened, when that trade went down, if you recall.
Yep, he was.
So we spoke about that. And remember, Coach, I said I wasn't a big fan of that. And one of the reasons I brought up was defense and what's going to happen come playoff time, because there's a different style of ball that's played during the regular season than in the playoffs, and I believe part of that is rearing its head, exactly like you said.
Yep,
that's
got to play defense in the playoffs.
You got to play defense.
The game is slowed down about 40 miles per hour.
And however, he got a great skill. Luka got great skill. But when you get somebody on him who's more athletic than him, he has to work too hard to score. He gonna get his buckets. It's gonna look cute, but he's working hard, working down that shot clock, using energy. Then on the other end, they going at him, like they're going at him.
Will, I'm gonna ask you this, coach to coach. The number one thing is Ant-Man is doing that's wearing him down. He's being physical. He is not letting him compose his will on none of that. He ain't going. Y'all know Ant-Man prideful, so he's like, bro, anything you can do, I can do better right now.
Hey, listen, man.
If Ant-Man's working.
If Ant-Man if he would just wear protection, bro, he would be the face of the NBA,
the face
bro.
of the league.
He would be the face of the NBA, bro. I love everything about Anthony Edwards, the basketball player, bro. Anthony Edwards, the basketball players, bro, he play hard.
I'm gonna tell you something.
He don't back down from a challenge.
I remember when he was playing Little League football. He was on the best Little League team in the nation.
I believe it.
And
he a competitor.
They used to whoop everybody's butt. Everybody from any state. They was whooping their butt.
That team out of Atlanta. He was on that team out of Atlanta that was stacked every year.
And then pay attention
to his Brother Johnson.
And then pay attention to how he talks at the end of the game. Like when he got his conference, he talks about he's talking about competing at a high level, but then at the same time he say like, man, LeBron was like a big brother to me in the Olympics, man. Like It ain't personal. I want to beat him. Like,
Yeah.
I don't care. I'm going to compete. And it's like, oh my God, why can't the whole world just adapt this mindset? It's just competition.
The whole
It ain't
league,
personal.
because he's different, man. You know, he's this generation's Russell Westbrook now, as far as he's one of the only guys that I feel like is going to compete at that level night in
I'm
and
not
night
even gonna
out.
compare him to Russell.
And
I'm gonna
Hey
compare
man,
him.
No,
hey man,
no,
mindset.
I'm
No,
not
hey man,
talking
mindset. He does
about.
have
I'm not
hey
talking
mindset.
man.
He's
about.
He's
Russell's
Russell
still
Westbrook.
cold though.
I'm not
Russell's
He
talking
still
got that
about
cold.
mindset.
game or any of that. I'm talking about, again, exactly what I
You talk
said.
about the mentality, yeah.
The
Yeah.
mentality and aggressiveness and wanting to compete night in. But he's not the only one. Also, Julius Randle has something to prove too
Hey, he been
that
roughing LeBron
on
up.
that organization that gave up on him and traded him initially too.
Hey,
So
listen. Certain people ain't built to play in big markets. It's too many
Nope.
distractions.
Yeah, it's too
I'm
many
telling you.
distractions.
I'm telling you. Like, I'll be all the way honest. I'm glad Anthony Edwards is in Minnesota. Would
Because if
you
he in
imagine him in
Atlanta,
a
New York,
Miami,
anywhere,
New
it's over.
York, California? What?
It's
You think it's
over.
bad now? You think what he going through bad now? What? If he was in one of them markets, Minnesota is perfect for him.
Yeah.
Nate, say your saying that you always say with the Celtics, man.
Green is for the money, gold is for the honeys. That's what
this
it
dude,
is.
I don't get it. Like I said, unless you from the Roxbury Projects and you rock with New
He
Edition,
said Roxbury.
and even they were Lakers fans. They didn't even like the Celtics. So I've never
No. They got put
understood
in a
this.
music video. They had to get in a music video, and that
I
was on
never
accident.
understood
That
this
was
with
on
Nate.
accident. They didn't even want to do that.
Listen, Nate. I remember a time where it was taboo if you was black, especially during the '80s, and I know
For
Coach
sure,
know
that was the
about
80s.
this,
We ain't talking about the 80s.
to
We
root for the
talking about the
Celtics.
80s.
So I've never understood it, but yeah, he's got a whole bunch of Celtics gear and all this crap.
I do. For
I
sure.
couldn't stand the Celtics, but Larry Bird was the coldest I've ever
The
seen.
coldest.
Larry Legend.
Who do a whole game?
I've seen him make shots that I was like, nah, bro, he different. He
It
different.
pisses me off when people say or make comments that, oh, Larry couldn't have played in today's
Nah,
time. All this. I'm
nah.
like, what the hell are you talking
Hey,
about?
Larry had some brother in him somewhere, bro. He had an
Yeah, he
attitude.
did. And he was gonna get buckets in whatever
Yes,
generation that he played in.
yes.
Yo, hold on. Let me explain to y'all. When he left Indiana, he went to work a job. You know who he was hooping against? Nothing but brothers.
Yeah.
So he wasn't seeing nothing but brotherly competition. So he like, oh no.
Well, I
When he
saw
seen
that.
a white guy across from him, it became disrespect. You go disrespect me putting this white boy on me?
Yeah,
Y'all
he
I
did.
saw
crazy.
that.
What's
He
wrong?
I
said
Where
that.
saw
the
that
brother
He
at? Where
said
the
documentary.
that.
athletic brother at?
I saw that documentary,
He said that.
Larry
He
Larry
sure said
versus
that.
Magic, and he talked about that because he was born in Southern Indiana, a very rural, poor part in French
Terre
Lick,
Haute.
and no, he went to
Oh, he's
college in
from
Terre
French
No,
Haute.
he went to
Lick.
college in Terre Haute.
French
My
Lick.
bad.
He's
He's
from
from
French
French
Lick.
Lick.
Yeah, there you go.
And
French
he
Lick.
was
I'm sorry.
talking about how the birthplace of the modern Ku Klux Klan and stuff, and he had every reason why he could have followed along with some people, but the workers at the hotels and stuff where he hooped, well, like you said, were brothers, and they let him play. And he always said, "Hey, man, brothers are cool, man. They gave me a chance, to play and accepted me, and that's where it started." And like you said, he hooped against them. So
Mm-hmm.
Larry kind of thought it was disrespectful to put a white guy on it because he was like, "Oh, he ain't got no shot against me." Larry was one of the best ish talkers,
Oh yeah,
ever
for
too. He'll
sure.
tell you that.
They say he top 5 ever in the league with trash talk.
He'll tell you
Top
what he's
5.
gonna do and still do it.
Yeah.
He
Hey,
was.
I'm about to hit you with. I'm gonna hit you with this. I'm gonna hit you with this back down. I'm gonna shimmy left, shimmy right, and then it's on. It's on.
And do it.
And you ain't gonna stop it. And
Hey,
we'll tell you you're not gonna stop it.
hey. I got it. I give it to him, man. He used to test some folks up, bro. I ain't even gonna lie to
I
you.
just will never forget that game watching him play against Atlanta, and he went for 63. After
Yeah.
Kevin McHale had went for 60 like 2 days prior, he
Yep.
said,
Had to
"Oh
break
yeah,
his
I'm gonna break that."
teammates. his teammate's record.
I'm gonna break that. Just don't worry about it. I'm gonna break that. I ain't no disrespect to you, but that ain't gonna last a week.
So before we get out of here, fellas, Will said his mic is not working, so he had to cut out. Another favorite sport of all three of us, I know, and I found out with Coach the last time he was on here. So we got a big boxing weekend coming up
weekend
as well. What round is Ryan Garcia gonna knock Rolly out in?
It's gonna be late. I'm gonna go 8th or 9th.
It ain't gonna last that long.
Damn.
I hope Rolly beat him.
You want Rolly to beat him?
I want him to beat him. I hope he get hit with one of them good shots and knock him out.
Rolly is awkward, but
yeah, he's very awkward.
He awkward and he hit hard.
Rolly didn't look good in his last fight to me.
No, Garcia's gonna win, but I hope Rolly pulls something out of head and whoop his butt. I don't like Garcia.
I want to see Devin Haney lose. I don't mean to sound this way.
I do not want to see Devin Haney lose.
You want to see that fight again. You want to
yes, back. I do, because when that happens this time, I want to see what Bill Haney, his big mouth, has to say.
He's been real quiet lately.
When Ryan runs it back on him, and this time there ain't no excuse of PED or nothing else that you want to say, because that ain't had nothing to do with that left hook that you couldn't get out the way of.
No, the way that left hook was landing, it was looking like it was perfectly supposed to be there. The left hook was supposed to be there.
That's what I'm looking for. Hey, when is Deontay Waters Backwoods? Don't even know what channel was coming on.
Mid-June, I believe. Hold on, I believe it's mid-June. Hold on, let's not skip over this weekend. So this is gonna be the first chapter to see if we go get Terrence Crawford and Canelo. Canelo is fighting Saturday, which he probably is gonna knock dude out. We're just gonna.
I ain't worried about that. Canelo gonna take care of business.
But we do have a potential super fighter in featherweight. Your boys, this is first time fighting in the States. The killer from Japan. His first fight here in the States. They fighting in Vegas on Sunday.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's why I said this is a big fight weekend due to the fact you have fights Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
I'm gonna have to start tuning in. I'm gonna tune in to that.
I'm sure you're gonna take care of
if you want to come up, you want to pull up to my house, I'm showing it. So
okay.
I'll be here all weekend, but my brother trying to get me to go to this damn derby stuff. I don't know if I'm gonna make it. I'm trying. I got to go to Kindergarten Prime on Friday. So after
let me know if you turning it on or not. Otherwise, I'm going to turn it on at my crib. But
no, I'll be here. I just gotta go to Kindergarten Prime on Friday, and then I'll be back home.
Well, I hope definitely the Japanese brother stays focused, because you know who else I was a big fan of, and when he fought his first fight here in America, he ain't never been the same since. And Anthony Joshua. So there's a lot of distractions when you come to America that you got to navigate.
Said I seen something earlier today that said he does the training and he goes back to his room. He don't really leave his room.
Good, because I knew
he's familiar, but they say he's familiar with Vegas, but he doesn't. With this, he's not doing any of that. So
good, because I knew it was a wrap for AJ when he got here and he was training in front of crystal chandeliers and water fountains.
It just didn't look too well.
Going on Hot 97 in the Breakfast Club and all that. I'm like, you ain't worried about no fight. And Ruiz got him.
You talking about Kamita? That his name?
Is that his last name, Nate?
Hold on, I'm pulling it up. I want to say that's correct, though. It is Nayo Ananu. I think I'm saying that right. He's fighting Ramon Cardenas on Sunday. Canelo fight early because they fighting in Saudi. So that Saudi fight will probably be about 8 o'clock on Saturday. That'll be early.
Turkey Al-Sheikh gonna be playing, man.
Yeah, I know who you talking about. I see.
What do they call him? The Japanese Nightmare. That's what his name is. Yep, he's the one. He's unified. Did he No, this is the unification for all the belts.
Shit, he got all the belts on in this picture.
I thought he had he does have all of them. Yeah. He does have all. I thought he had one more to get, but I forgot that last fight got him the last one.
Turkey Al-Sheikh is the gift and the curse, because he makes all the fights happen, but 99% of them are gonna happen in Saudi Arabia at some weird time. But he does get people to fight because he throws so much money at them they can't resist. So
and you see how Devin Haney retracted his statement saying I apologize, and Shakur Stevens did the same thing. Bro ain't worried about none of that. You can't say ain't no problem with money with him. He gonna make the fight happen. What you want? What you want?
that's what I like about it. He just cut to the chase. Like, what does it take to make this happen?
What I got to get you over here to fight?
He threw enough at Bud Crawford to make that fight, happen. And when Canelo was getting ready to back out, he said, "Oh, you need however much more. Yeah, all right, you got it."
Come on, what's up? It's right here.
Yeah. Are these all on the same card?
No, so Ryan versus Rolly. Ryan versus Rolly is Friday. Devin Haney and Jesus Ramirez is Friday, and Teofimo Lopez versus Barbosa is Friday. So that's Friday.
All on the same card then. All three of them on the same card.
Nah, I thought Haney and Garcia on the same card.
Yeah, Haney, Lopez, and Garcia and Rolly are on the same card.
Yeah.
That's all Friday.
Friday. Okay.
That's Friday. Yeah. They're fighting in New York, so it's gonna be like 7:00 start time. I want to see Teofimo lose. I'm sick of him. He got mental issues. He needs to sit down.
I like Lopez.
I can't stand him. He's a racist. I can't stand him.
I'm just talking about in the ring.
I don't even like him in the ring because he really got beat up by what's the name of the last fight? That one fight.
I know there's a lot of people that want King Ryder to lose, just like Coach said, but I don't think it's gonna happen on Friday.
I hope not. And then Canelo has a big card too, but a lot of these guys, a lot of people don't know. I know Badou Jack he's still going. He on the beginning of that card. And Bruce Service is on that card too.
How old is Badou Jack now?
36.
Yeah, it's about time to sit it down.
Yeah, so he probably got 1 or 2 fights.
Saturday, right?
Yeah, Canelo fights Saturday. And it'll be an earlier fight, so he'll probably be fighting about Canelo will probably be fighting about 8 at the latest.
What about Sunday's fight? Who is on that?
Sunday's fight is late due to the fact that it's in Vegas.
That's the Japanese kid?
Yeah, that's the Japanese Nightmare. He's fighting Cardenas.
All right, I got him. I'm on.
And Fabian Medana's on that card too. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's a young, up and coming guy. Pretty good.
Yeah, Nate, we need to talk about what's on the food and meat drink menu for Friday.
Well, Friday I won't be home till about 8:30.
What time does the fight start?
7. But it's like 3 undercards before they get to the main 3 fights.
All right, well that's cool. We can get that situated.
Yeah, so that probably would be best to just grab some pizzas and being cool with that.
Well, I want to remind everybody to please make sure if you're not able to catch the live stream and the video, which will always be up on YouTube, we are on Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts for your listening pleasure. Make sure that you subscribe to those platforms as well as the Factual Opinions Facebook and Instagram pages as well. Want to thank Coach Sellers for stepping in today, always providing the good commentary. Stepping in for the Brown, Bruce Wayne, Big John, the workaholic. He got 8 jobs. Want to wish him a happy birthday. He had,
happy belated, brother.
Yep, a few days ago. So we miss you, Big John, but we got the job done. I also want to thank Brother Will for stopping in as well this episode. So it's your host, I Am Pharaoh, checking out with Coach Sellers and Will West, the best Nate. We'll try and do it better the next time.
Sure. So, Coach,